What is going on, Notre Dame fans? Mike Singer from blueandgold.com. We are just 2 days away from Notre Dame's season opener at Florida State. It's going to be a packed stadium in Tallahassee. Got Tim Hyde, blue and gold analyst, longtime high school football coach, and a longtime follower of Fighting Irish football to break down the game, looking at it from the Notre Dame side of things. This will be our final thoughts and predictions ahead of this contest. Of course, these two teams face each other last year. Notre Dame got the better of the Seminoles at home, 142-26. We'll have the passing and the rushing stats. We'll look at some of the other stats as the video progresses here. But, I mentioned it's going to be a packed stadium, Tim. The passing of Bobby Bowden, is that a big and emotional thing for the players, the crowd, the coaches? How much of a impact do you think that will play? Or do you think, like, look, these players are 18, 19, 20 years old, like, what do they even remember of the Bobby Bowden era? What do they even really know? So any thoughts there, Tim?
Oh, huge thoughts. I think this is going to be a bigger storyline than people think. My opinion as I break this game down, looking at it is number one, who is Bobby Bowden to Florida State? He is Florida State's Newt Rockne. I mean, seriously, he is the man that built that program. And why is this a big game? Why is this game on Sunday night, prime time, on Labor Day weekend? It is, you just say the words Florida State, Notre Dame, and instantly, obviously, you think of the great games from, obviously the classic game of '93, but it's Bobby Bowden built this program. And when you say Florida State, even to this day, you still think of the '80s, the '90s, obviously all the way up through the Winky time there with Bobby Bowden. So sure, Bobby Bowden's gone. Florida State is not the same team that was back in the heyday, but it still matters. And I look at it as it's game one, Florida State's first game coming off of the passing of of their founder, so to speak, Bobby Bowden, and it's Notre Dame. So who's going to be at that game? It's going to be packed house, but who's going to give the pregame speech? I bet you $2 it's going to be the alums, and those guys are going to be in that locker room, and it is going to be an emotional pregame speech where it's, guys, this is Notre Dame. Let's get ready to play this Sunday night. And I just think that's just going to be a big event that Notre Dame's got to be prepared for. But I think they are prepared for it.
And looking at some of these stats last year, the rushing output, from Kyron Williams, 19 carries, 185 yards, 2 touchdowns is kind of his coming out party. That Florida State defense was pretty horrid against Notre Dame last year. Notre Dame defense struggled a good bit too, though. Ian
Sure.
Book, that was typical Ian Book performance, 16 and 25, 200 yards, a couple touchdowns. Again, it was a high-scoring affair last year, one that Notre Dame won, but it wasn't like their best ball by any stretch. What would you say when you look at this year's matchup? What are some of the key factors for Notre Dame to come out of here with a win?
Well, in last year's game, I mean, wasn't Notre Dame coming off like a 2 week bye? I think Florida State was their first game after the little COVID hiccup with Wake Forest and whatnot. But keys to this game, I the first three things that came to mind is number one, Notre Dame's going to Tallahassee first time as a favorite. Think about that. The last
Wow.
two, they've only been to Tallahassee twice, and obviously the classic 0-2 upset. With Tyrone Willingham's first year, the famous Carlisle Holiday to Arnell's battle, the first play of the game to jumpstart that and upset Florida State. They were 10-point underdogs, and then obviously the infamous illegal pick play that the ref called on Notre Dame that took away the great upset in Coach Kelly's 2014 season. So, number one, Notre Dame's coming off of, two Final Four appearances in the last 3 years. Florida State is 3 straight seasons of a losing record. So, both these programs, you could say, are going in different directions, but that's a big thing. How's Notre Dame going to play this Bobby Bowden game, as I'm calling it, as the favorite, their first time in Tallahassee? I think that's going to be a big thing because obviously FSU is going to have a lot of emotion. They're going to come out storming right from the get-go. So Notre Dame, but this is Coach Kelly. He's prepared these guys. They've been in these games. I was talking to a friend earlier who was asking me about the game, and I was like, come on, Notre Dame played Clemson twice last year in Alabama, so they could take a punch. There's no doubt about that. So that's going to be a big thing I was thinking about, them going to Tallahassee as a touchdown plus favorite. Number two is the O-line. We've been talking about the offensive line forever. They lost all those guys to the NFL that are going to be playing here on Sunday soon, and it's what's going to happen on that first 3rd and 2. Do they lean right? Right is Lugg and Madden, the veterans, the experience, the 5th-year guys, or what are they going to do on that left side when you got a true freshman who, I know I called him Baby Orlando Pace when we first met,
That's
and he's
right.
going to be a future top 10 pick. There's no, just look at the guy. He's unbelievable. And then Zeke Corral is one of the top players in America, and he was recruited. So they got guys. Jared Patterson's arguably top 1, 2, 3 center in America. So they are very good up front. But it is going to be crazy loud, insanely loud up there. And how do those guys handle that thing? So, and then the third is the corners. This is my key to the entire Notre Dame football season is corner play.
Okay.
Everyone's talking about wide receivers and all this stuff. How do the corners handle, the matchups? Because I know Florida State's been down, but Florida State has speed. There's no doubt about that, and they got wide receivers.
All right, a couple thoughts there. One,
Sure.
um, Todd Burlage, Blue and Gold, longtime Blue and Gold staff writer, wrote his kind of story, some sidebarish storylines, keys to the game, and he wrote that it's crazy to think about. This is really Notre Dame's first true road environment since Michigan 2019.
Yep.
Notre Dame kind of cruised in November with all those home games, Virginia Tech, they definitely didn't cruise against Virginia Tech, but Navy, Boston College, and then the Stanford game, you're playing in front of 45 people, so that's nothing. And then 2020, there's no true road environment, so that's certainly an interesting thing to keep an eye on. And then, Tim, you said that, the key is the cornerbacks. That is cute. Tim, you don't mean that. It's the quarterback. It doesn't it's the quarterback is the key. That is so much more important than the cornerback play. As important as it is, don't get me wrong. Notre Dame has got to get better on the perimeter. But if you put Trevor Lawrence, and I love Ian Book, but if you put Trevor Lawrence or one of those generational type talents at quarterback on that Notre Dame team last year, I think they might win the national championship. Am I crazy?
No, well, yeah, no, because obviously quarterback is always the key. I was looking at this as a long-term season starting in game 1 is the play of the corners. Notre Dame's going to face some really good quarterbacks this year, but quarterback's always a biggie. Yeah. Which obviously that parlays into who's Notre Dame's quarterback and the expectations and what's Jack Coan going to bring to the table for this team, and we're going to find out here pretty soon.
Well, let's stick with Jack Coan. What are your thoughts? What do you expect to see from Jack Coan? Something Brian Kelly was asked about on Thursday, and he kind of gave a coach speak answer of we always want him to be consistent and control it, control the ball and the offense, all that good stuff. But personally for you, what do you expect to see from Jack Coan? Are you going to give me a coach speak answer? Or are you going to give me a media analyst answer, Tim?
No, number one is why did they bring him in? Because, as an analyst, there's no quarterbacks on that campus. You can say whatever you want about Pine and Buckner and whatnot. They needed a quarterback. I think when Kelly and Reese hung out together, had that first cup of coffee, and they're like, we need a quarterback. We need a quarterback to get ready for this upcoming football season. And, luckily, Jack Coan fell right into their lap. You got a guy that played in the real Rose Bowl, not the Notre Dame one last year, played in Pasadena, played in the granddaddy of them all at the highest stages, played against, Ohio State, played the Big Ten schedule, obviously. The guy's been in huge emotional environments, crazy football games being part of the Big Ten there. So what I'm looking for is that experience is hopefully he sits in that pocket and delivers the ball to those speed guys. Notre Dame has some speed at wide receiver. Yeah, they don't have a lot of catches and the experience factor and things of that nature, but they have some speed. And I'm hoping Jack Coan delivers that ball because that's what they brought him in for. They need a quarterback who could come in and be the guy on day one.
It's crazy, Tim, that from looking at this from a Notre Dame circle, no one's talking about wow, this Notre Dame defense might take a step back because you lose Clark Lee. Like when you lose your coordinator to another head coaching job in the SEC, typically that's like, man, that side of the ball is going to take a step back. But since Notre Dame got Marcus Freeman, despite him not even coaching a down yet at Notre Dame, no one's talking about, that kind of step back because of just, not only how highly folks thought of Marcus Freeman in the coaching carousel and what a great job he did at Cincinnati and that final game against Georgia. His defense looks so good, but he's just been so great at recruiting. Like everyone's just so hyped up about Marcus Freeman. Where you kind of stand on this? Is it somewhere in the middle? Like, is he the greatest thing since sliced bread, or is everyone going to call for his job after Florida State kicks a field goal?
I'm definitely in the middle, probably because I've been a long
That's
time
good.
Notre Dame. I'm a long time Notre Dame follower, so as the late great Lou Emoji would probably say, is we've seen the hyped up DCs many times at Notre Dame, and I was thinking about this with Marcus Freeman, and I think I even told you a week ago when we were chatting about the great Notre Dame DCs are those quiet guys, are those under the radar guys, those boring guys. You got Lou Holtz hired Barry Alvarez, who was on campus. Who's this guy? Well, he only won a national title and college football Hall of Fame football coach. After that, Lou Holtz hires the great Gary Darnell, bring in the SEC speed defense. Well, he's fired in 2 years. And they bring in this boring guy from the MAC, Rick Minter. And for the Notre Dame fans, go look at the defenses he had in 92, 93. Charlie Weiss wanted to get exotic, and he went and got the money and got John Tanunu away from Georgia Tech. Well, he got fired in a year after the blitz fest that he brought in. And then, even Coach Kelly, who's been his two best DCs, the boring Bob Diaco and the ultra conservative, quiet,
Boring.
Clark Lee.
Boring Clark
Yeah,
Lee.
Clark,
Yeah.
Clark Lee. And who's been the one everyone was throwing pom-poms and hype for? The NFL guru, the Brian Van Gorder, all the NFL experience. And people forget Brian Van Gorder was a Broyles Award winner when he was at the University of Georgia. Well, he got fired. So I'm excited as could be. Don't get me wrong.
Yeah, what are you saying here? What are you saying here, Tim?
Hey, I don't know. I hope he breaks the curse. I hope he breaks the overhyped curse, because they've had a lot of those types of DCs at ND. But no, I'm excited. I mean, he's done a great job recruiting. He sounds like obviously the Notre Dame man. He's been on so many podcasts and some videos he's done over the summer talking about Notre Dame. He is, he bleeds blue and gold when you hear him speak, and I think that's going to come across through the way his kids play for him. He doesn't have that fake persona about him whatsoever. So I'm excited for the D. I think they're going to play. They got a lot of great guys at a lot of good positions. There's just, I'm a little, I know everyone wants to hype up the defensive line, but where's the pass rush coming from? They had to move a 3-tech to DN. Is Foskey, Botella going to be the speed rushers that everyone thinks that they are? So we'll see. And but I'm excited. I'm really excited to see what he brings, because he's definitely going to be way more multiple than what Notre Dame's done over the years.
So moving into final segment here, score predictions. Notre Dame at about 7.5 to 8 point favorites in this contest. The over/under is at 56. I like right now, if the spread's 7.5, I like Florida State to cover. I like 27-20 Notre Dame, and I hit the under 56. I could definitely see this game being at about 3-0 at the end of the first quarter. Like I think it could be a low scoring game. Tim, what's your score prediction, and tell us why?
Real easy. As a football coach, there are no predictions for game one. Game one is to find a way and to win the game. And that's what you got to do. So that's the great Ara Parseghian always said, you want to be 1-0 after that first week. So my score prediction is, I look at it like this. Notre Dame has played Florida State 2 out of the last 3 years. And those 2 years they played, they were Final Four teams, 2018, 2020. Florida State's Florida State's in the midst of a train wreck, 3 straight losing seasons. Is this a Final Four team? Is this an NCAA playoff team for Notre Dame? I don't think so. That's just my humble opinion. So I looked at it. So I took both scores, combined them. It was 42-19. I took a touchdown away from Notre Dame, gave Florida State a touchdown for Bobby Bowden. I think they cover. I got 35-26 Notre Dame.
Well, there you have it.
That's my reasoning. It's game one. Got to come out with a win, and that's all that matters in this game.
Tim Hyde will be joining us right after the game. We'll go live on YouTube on Sunday night. It'll be a late one, Tim. So I hope you got a
I'm ready.
cup of coffee when Notre Dame takes the field. So we will go live with Tim Hyde. We went live with Mike Goolsby after the games last year. Goolsby is just doing all sorts of things all the time. We hope to have Goolsby on some shows this fall as well. Certainly might have him on some weekends, but we'll have Tim on Sunday night after the game. Make sure you guys hit the thumbs up if you liked what you saw in this video. Subscribe to our channel for more content. Stay locked into blueandgold.com for all the coverage of Notre Dame versus Florida State.